Welcome to Average Joe Sports, where we bring you the latest and greatest in sports from the perspective of the everyday fan. Your host is excited to dive into the action with you today. So grab your favorite snack, settle in, and let's get it.
What's going on, fam? It's your boy KJ coming at you with another episode of Average Joe Sports. Hey, it's that week 3 college football. We in it. And so, I'm in this college pick'em, I guess, league. And so I got to thinking when I was making my picks earlier, why don't I share my picks with you? And so, I'm going to kind of walk you through the steps of what's in my head, right? And what I actually look at because I think these are some pivotal games for some teams, right? So the teams that I have currently are I'm going to share are Texas A&M against Florida. We got LSU against South Carolina, Maryland against Virginia, Colorado versus Colorado State, Memphis against Florida State, and UCF against TCU. So, off the bat, I was like, Texas A&M and Florida. Both teams are 1-1, and Texas A&M had that heartbreaking loss against Notre Dame, which lost to Northern Illinois, right? So how good could they be? But then Florida got dust off the map against Miami, and then they bounced back against Sanford, not Stanford to be confused, Sanford. So I'm like, wow, this is kind of a tough game. And to throw in that, you have a freshman by the name of DJ Lagway, who threw over 456 yards, setting a Florida record for a freshman in passing yards. 456, right? Just because Graham Mertz was in concussion protocol. Now, Graham is actually cleared concussion protocol. So now Billy Napier has a decision to make. What is he going to do? Is he going to go with the hot hand with the freshman? Or is he going to go with, I guess, the wily old vet, right? So that's up in the air. And Billy hasn't made an announcement on who will start. But, taking that Miami game into account and then that Sanford game, do I think Mertz could have the same production? I don't think so. You know, Florida looked kind of energized when they were playing that team. And coupled with I just think a new voice has a different impact on the team, be it a freshman or not. And it's hard to throw for 456 yards. So, I'm sure Billy is probably struggling right now on this decision to make. And I'm sure Texas A&M is like, I wish they'd go ahead and name a starter so we can actually prepare. Because I can tell you one thing that the freshman has that Merce doesn't. He has an arm. He can throw that ball, and he can really spin it. So if I was Texas A&M, I would prefer Mertz. Um, but again, I would probably prefer a freshman too. Mistakes, right? Texas A&M, they're going with Connor Wigman again. You know, he's a game manager in my book. He's not going to wow you. He doesn't have gaudy stats. He's just a game manager. And the Texas A&M offense, to be honest, has not been explosive at all. It's been rather pedestrian. So some of the key matchups that I've been looking at was Texas A&M pass rush versus Florida's O line, right? The Aggies, that man, they got one of the best pass rushes in the country, and whether it's Mertz or Lagway, that protection is going to be critical. So if you're starting a freshman and he's getting pressured, usually pressure on freshmen equals turnovers. Heck, in Florida's case, pressure on quarterback equals turnovers. So that's a critical piece. Another key matchup that I've been looking at is Florida's vertical passing versus Texas A&M secondary. You know, as I said, Lagway has a big arm, and he can spread. Like I said, he can spin that ball. And if he's putting up that ball and allowing those Florida receivers to just get under it, that can mean that could be a long day for Texas A&M, because I don't think that their secondary, from my perspective, they improved any. And so I think that could be an X factor in the game, because if there's no deep threats from Florida, really you can load the box and stop that run. So, I know everybody's picking Texas A&M on this game. For me, I'm looking at and taking Florida. I'm not picking them to win, mind you, just yet. But Florida has home field advantage in this game because, again, they're playing in Gainesville, right? But the quarterback situation has me worried a little bit, because you can't go this many days and not declare a starter, or at least not getting Mertz the reps, right, with the first team. I'm just not. It's tough playing in the swamp. Regardless of how bad Florida is, it's tough playing there. So, I'm struggling a little bit. And I think this is going to be a very competitive, low scoring game, for the simple fact that, Texas A&M offense is not going to wow you. Your running game is subpar. Passing game is lackluster. But I can say the same thing for Florida if they start Mertz. Again, Lagman, he played Sanford, and, you have to take that into account. But for this particular game, I'm going with Texas A&M. There's just too many unknowns with Florida right now. With the O-line, how they're going to stand up with one of the best pass rushes in the country, not only in the SEC, and their quarterback situation. If they do start the freshman, how's he going to hold up when he's getting pressured? Is he going to get flustered? And if it's Mertz, how's he coming back from having a concussion? One, is he going to be afraid? But two, I haven't seen any dynamic plays. And with that, again, I'm picking Texas A&M. So let's move on to South Carolina versus LSU. Woo! LSU, y'all, 1-1, right? And they're going to Columbia, to play South Carolina, which is 2-0. And Beamer got them boys beaming right now. They took out Kentucky last week, and they don't like each other. And I was very surprised that they actually beat Kentucky, to be honest with you. So looking at the quarterback matchup, right? LSU boasts Garrett Nussmeier, who's actually been throwing that ball, man. He's been spinning it over the last 2 games, 610 yards, 8 TDs, and just 1 interception. And he has a 75% completion rate. Now, that's pretty dang good. And LSU got them some receivers, right? But then, across the field, you got South Carolina. They're Lenorius Sellers, right? He's not a, per se, accurate quarterback. He's only thrown for 273 yards, two TDs, and an interception. And while his completion rate is only 55.3%, his real thing is that he can run. So he's a dual threat quarterback. And if you know anything about South Carolina, they're going to try to run that ball, right? And set that up. He'll do some play action, but they want to run that ball. And so that this quarterback competition between Sellers and Nussmeier is going to be very interesting. So one of the key matchups I'm looking at is LSU's passing attack. They've been averaging 311 yards a game. And Kyron Lacy, he's been killing it. 12 catches, 159 yards, 4 TDs. I mean, he's a beast. LSU they always have beast of receivers. And so is he going to be able to attack that secondary of South Carolina? But on the other foot, LSU has to contend with South Carolina's running game. I mean, Raheem Sanders, for the last couple, he notched up 142 yards and 2 TDs so far. And mind you, he's doing that with a mobile quarterback, so a running quarterback at that. And so, that's a pretty good counter, right? But I think one of the other key matchups in this game is going to be LSU's defense versus South Carolina's O line. I mean, Blake Baker got them boys playing, and they like to bring pressure. They bring it up the middle, and they bring it from the ends. And I don't know if South Carolina has seen a team that plays this well and that physical. No pun. I'm not throwing shade at Kentucky, but they're just not as physical as what those boys in Louisiana are. So, from my perspective, is this game going to be close? I don't think so. I think that LSU's it's going to be close the first half. By the third quarter, LSU's going to open it up. And I think that LSU is going to actually take this one home. Maryland and Virginia. Man. So Maryland got this quarterback named Billy Edwards Jr. He's thrown for 564, 4 TDs and an interception. And he's completed 75% of his passes. That's pretty good considering what they had before, because they had Tua's brother last year. And, he was all over the place, up and down, left and right. But this year, Billy's came in and he's had shown some stability at the quarterback position. Now, Virginia, they're throwing out Anthony. He's also thrown for over 600 yards, 654 to be exact. 5 TDs, 2 interceptions, right? But he seems to be a little erratic every now and then. I watched a couple of quarters of that Virginia play, and he with some time, I think he's going to be good. So the Maryland's passing attack, they're averaging 282 passing yards a game. And they got this receiver called by the name of Ty Felton. This guy has 18 catches, all right, in 2 games. 18 catches. Let that set in. 18. 330 yards receiving and 3 TDs. Quarterback only thrown 5 all year. And Felton has 3 of them. That's pretty good. This guy's balling. He's probably be in someone's NIL portal at the end of the year. Going to play for a bigger team. Virginia, they're going to have to contend with that. And last game, Virginia gave up 544 yards to Wake Forest. That's not going to cut it. And I don't think that doesn't cut it any way that you shake it, right? And so I don't know how they're going to stop Maryland through the air at all. Both teams, there won't be a running game in this game because both teams, they can't run the ball. Their O-lines aren't. They're not no run blockers by any stretch of the imagination. So whoever can run the ball during this game, they definitely have an edge, which, I would probably lean more towards Maryland on that. And with all that said, looking at just Maryland's firepower on what they currently have and what they can actually do, I'm picking Maryland. Regardless, even though they're playing at Virginia, the Cavaliers, could they upset them? They could. but they gotta almost play mistake-free football, and they have to contend with the firepower that Maryland puts out on that field. And I just don't think Virginia is equipped to do that against Maryland. So I think it won't be close, but it'll be close enough for those looking for that point spread. My next game is Colorado and Colorado State. Man, so Colorado State want to get some get back, right? They want to get some get back because of how they lost last year. In last year's game, I mean, I watched the entire game and it was very entertaining. And, I expect for this year to be the same. Colorado, they got embarrassed by Nebraska. They tore Shedeur a new butt. You know what I'm saying? That dude was running for his life the entire game. Kind of similar to some games last year, right? And I like Colorado, and I like them a lot. Especially to see the transformation of the team. But that O line struggles. Hopefully they can figure something out. But they got Colorado State. You know, Shedeur, he had a terrible game again against Nebraska, but he's thrown for 689 yards, 5 TDs in 2 games, right? And to that point, Colorado State, they allow 273 passing yards a game so far, right? So does that bode well for Shedeur? Time will tell, right? Because they got to play it, they got to do it on the field. But on the other side, though, Colorado State's quarterback Braden, he's completed 61% of his passes. He's passed for 239 yards in 2 games, 1 touchdown and 1 TD. If I'm Colorado, I'm not really afraid of their passing game. I know that they don't have top tier receivers that's just going to blow you away, especially with the corners that you have on your team. So I'm not looking for Colorado State to throw the ball over the field. I'm looking for them to try to improve on their run game because right now they're averaging 171 rushing yards over 2 games, right? That's a lot of miles. Those are long, sustained drives if they're scoring touchdowns. So if Colorado State is rushing the ball, Colorado's in for a long night. And so to defend that, I would definitely be keeping people in the 8-man box or whatever. I would definitely keep people in the box. Colorado's struggling on their rushing though. They're only averaging 37.5 yards a game. That's crazy. 1.7 yards a carry. You can't win games like that. You can't do that. Look at USC and Lincoln Riley. Although their offense was clicking. They may not have stopped you, but at least you got to put up points. And so with Colorado, if you have no run game to support that passing game, that opens it up for your receivers, you're going to be in struggle games the entire season. So you got to figure something out with your O-line. Your O-line might need to start blocking in zone blocking versus trying to do one-on-one and just try to figure something else out because the game plan that you've had really the last couple of games, for me, I think you've struggled. You've really struggled in that run game. And so, if you know your weaknesses, what can you do to improve on those weaknesses, right? So it's going to be interesting, because this is a rivalry game based on some stuff that was said last year about hats and sunglasses and all this other stuff. I think they put that all to bed, but I think Colorado State, now mind you, they want a little get back. And I hear him. I want a little get back too, right? And so with that, my pick for this game is going to be Colorado. I just think, excuse me, I just think that they got too many. I think Colorado has too much firepower at the end. And they have better talent. And I think at the end of the day, talent is going to beat Colorado State. So my next game is Memphis against Florida State. Oh, struggling Florida State. Florida State's coming off a bye. Boy, did they need it. After suffering 2 losses to Georgia Tech and Boston College, I'm surprised they came back this week. But, again, they still got a lot of season left. But I'm going to tell you, the key matchup in this game, so Memphis can actually win this game, y'all. And I'm not just saying that because Florida's been down here in the last couple of games. Memphis, surprisingly, is a balanced offensive team. I mean, they run the ball and they pass it. So Memphis, they're averaging 42 points a game. 42 points a game. That's more than Florida State. So when I look at it, Memphis is averaging 42. Florida State is actually giving up 26 a game. Right? Right? Memphis doesn't have the studs that Florida State does. But 26 a game? And I think Memphis is pretty on par with like Boston College is a better. I think Memphis is better than Boston College, to be honest with you. I mean, and maybe Georgia Tech, but Memphis got their quarterback, Seth, 70% of his passes completed. 70% of his passes. And he's passed for 469 yards, 3 TDs, and no picks. I think that's better than what he's going to face across the field with DJ. DJ's only completed 58% of his passing. 465 yards, 1 TD, and 1 pick. Now, Florida State has a lot to prove in this game, especially coming off a bye. Because what I've heard is they went back into the workshop and they got back to the basics. So what Florida State team are we going to get? Are we going to get last year's Florida State team or this year? So when I look at it, I'm thinking about, okay, Florida State probably needs to take some pressure off DJ and establish a running game. They only average 59 yards a carry per game this year, right? That's 1.7 per yards per carry. They've proven over the last couple of games being one-dimensional does not work for them. They have to have passing and rushing. They cannot sway from the two. They have to have passing and rushing, because when they just pass, they lose. So maybe, this is a time for them to really go back into the lab and say, hey, we need to establish our running game, and we're going to do it against Memphis. We're going to line up, our O-line is going to line up, and we're going to push their ass all across the field. So, I was talking about Memphis, right? So Memphis is set up. They average 234 yards passing, and they rush for 135 yards a game. Their top receiver is Mario Anderson. He's over the last couple of games, he's accumulated 171 yards, 4 TDs, right? So that lets you know what type of team Memphis is. They want to run the ball to establish the run, something that Florida probably needs to take a page from. So, when I'm looking at this game, I was like, man, Florida State is pretty desperate right now, right? They gotta get a win in. They're not winning in court. They're not winning on the field. This is a problem, right? So they it's a must win for them. If they have any hopes, if there's a slim chance that they can get into the ACC championship game, they gotta win this game. They can't take any more L's. They gotta be damn near perfect for the rest of the season, right? So, usually when people are put against a wall, they tend to get a little reckless. And I just hope that DJ won't get a little reckless and try to take everything and put it on his shoulders. I do think that the coaching staff may have figured out, hey, we really need to run the ball to get DJ settled in and use DJ a little bit more in the running game, just so he can get more comfortable with the system. And keep in mind, this is his first year at Florida State, after playing in Oregon State. So I think Florida State's probably going to bounce back in this game. Now, I do think it's going to be a struggle, right? But I'm looking for Florida State to go ahead and win this one. Last but not least, UCF against TCU. Man, we talk about running. Boy, UCF got a rushing attack that will run. Oh, boy. So, they got this quarterback named KJ Jefferson, right? The old Arkansas guy, right? One that just like to run over you. He don't want to slide. He don't want to, get out of bounds. He want to dip his shoulder in you, right? So the Knights, they're over 2 games, they've accumulated 419 rushing yards, right? TCU ain't seen nothing like this. 419. That means they're probably running on 3rd downs. I mean, you got to be physically ready for this. And I'm on the fence, to be honest with you about this, right? Because if you know that your opponent's going to be running the ball, and that means that they're physical. That means that they're going to try to beat you up all game, right? So, I talked about KJ, right? So KJ, he's completed 65% of his passes, 333 yards, 2 TDs, and an interception, right? TCU, they got a quarterback too by the name of Josh Hoover, 71% pass rate, percentage of completions. Kick this now, 620 in passing yards and 4 TDs and no picks. Now, I watched Hoover play. I like this guy. I think he's a very productive, your traditional type quarterback, good pocket presence. And I don't know if UCF is going to be able to get to him. I don't know. I'm iffy on that. But then, I look across the field, then you got KJ Jefferson, right? And he's a dual threat. He has a strong arm, mind you, because he showed that off at Arkansas. But I start to think about time of possession, right? Will UCF control the time of possession, which will then make TCU have to throw the ball, right? So, I was like, let me take a deeper dive. So the Knights starting running back, RJ Harvey, he leads them with 268 rushing yards over two games and 6 TDs. And he's done this with just 30 carries. I'm going to say this stat line one more time for y'all. 268, 6 TDs, 30 carries. That's damn good. That's damn good. That is damn good. I don't know if TCU is ready for that. That ain't Big 12 ball. even though UCF is Big 12. But that ain't Big 12 ball right there. Because they like to throw that thing. I don't know. But then I think about, TCU's averaging 325 passing yards a game. They can stretch the field. They playing at home. Man. But if UCF is controlling that clock, But I always think a good firepower always triumphs, right? So for me, I'm going with TCU in this game. I've been struggling thinking about it, and I don't want to overthink it, right? I've seen KJ play multiple times when he was at Arkansas, but, and I know what TCU can do. And, Sonny, I think Sonny has a game plan coming up for UCF. I will probably make KJ beat me with his arm, to be honest with you. You're going to have to beat me. Like they say in Missouri, we from the show me state. Well, show me you can beat me because I'm not letting you run. I'm not letting you run. I'm not letting Harvey run. Y'all going to have to pass it. So, yeah. But hey, y'all, that's my picks for my Pick'em tournament that I'm in for this week. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Hit me up in my comments. I appreciate y'all. This is your boy KJ coming at you for Average Joe Sports. Y'all have a good one. Peace.